hope you had a wonderful break. There's a ton to cover this week, mostly just me giving you pointers for your next two papers, 5 and 6. But before we get to that, you all have this burning desire probably to know about your midterm. Did you do it right? Did what you do was way off? I can't speak. I don't know why. So let's get started on that. Let's look at whether or not you did it right. Now, I won't be going over any individual's midterm directly because that would be illegal, right, because of the laws for FERPA, which means I won't disclose information on your behalf without your permission. But I will go over some general examples of really good responses to all the questions in the midterm. Though the midterm answer key is right here. Dun, 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 dun. Let's bring it up. Now, for question 1, the answer was false. You can read the question, no need to go over it. Question 2, the answer was circumstantial evidence. Question 3, a signal phrase is used to introduce or signal the following information, results, data, opinions. In other words, it's telling your reader, hey, dude, reader, this is not me. This is somebody else talking. I'm using their information. Question number 4, here's where we get into that analysis. You had to find the source by Libby Sander, and hopefully you all found it. I did have a couple students say they had trouble. It turns out your firewalls on your computers were blocking pop-ups and such, so the article actually wasn't opening for you. You did not have this problem at all if you were on campus and signed in correctly. So the Libby Sanders piece talks a lot about colleges and student success and how they can improve student success by specifically hiring a data analyst to look at all this information that we're kind of ignoring that we gather about students. Why gather information if we're not going to actually figure out what it does and what it means, right? So that's what Libby Sanders is arguing here, Sander. So the step number 2 in this question was to explain the credentials of the author. So as you know, because I've been talking about all semester, credentials and attribution are synonymous, right? They're the same thing. If you're going to attribute in your writing, you're going to give the person you're writing about some credentials, some reasons why your reader should believe them. Well, here's a great example to the answer to number A. Libby Sander, a reporter, writes about student affairs, exploring the experiences of collegians from all walks of life. Now, these are actual student examples here, so sometimes it might seem a little over the top or not super professional, like the all walks of life part. Kind of interesting, right, to write. The Education Writer Association has twice recognized her feature writing with first prize awards, most recently for Out of Uniform, a 2012 series of articles about student veterans and the new GI Bill. She joined the Chronicle in 2007 to cover college sports, focusing on the people and finances of major NCAA programs. Do you see? This is what we mean by credentials. Why should we believe an author? Now, in your own writing, you might not put like all of this. This is a lot of information, but maybe you do. If you're using Sander work, and let's say you were actually using this source in your own paper, and you used it a lot, like in all 3 of your CSE paragraphs and your intro, so you're relying on her heavily, then you introduce more. The more heavily you rely on a source, the more you give the source attribution, you talk about the author's credentials. Okay, moving on. The stance of the author. What is the author's position on the issue? In the source, Lessons from the College That Have Improved Their Student Success, Sander is wondering how college should address the president's goal of 5 more access to students. Okay, I knew that was wrong. I put seek after it. Sick. Whenever you put sick, notice here in brackets, you know that the quote has something wrong in it, grammatically or something. And you're telling your audience, hey, this ain't me. I can type. This is somebody else. So you can use this too if you're ever doing a quote and you notice some mistakes in the quote. Okay, so when I talk about the position and the stance of the author, this is what I'm talking about. So Sander states that the report argues colleges to separate data sets through several defining characteristics. The author is saying, hire a data analyst. The author is saying, figure out data sets, dig deeper into data. And that's the stance of the author. In other words, what is the thesis? The credentials of the publisher. This is not the same as the credentials of Sander. This is different. The credentials of the publisher is wanting to know what the Chronicle, where it was published in, why they have authority. What have they done in the past? Well, it's a 9-time finalist for the National Magazine Awards, received many honors from respectable organizations. These are great answers to these questions. Notice how the various authors of these answers have introduced them in the source, Lessons from the College. Sander is wondering, so they introduced the name of the source and the author. They didn't just like give me I didn't require this, but I was impressed at how they did some introduction here as well. So, E, currency, is it appropriate? The answer is yes and no. It depends. It depends on what your thesis is. So if your thesis requires incredibly current data, then no, this wouldn't be appropriate. If it is okay if it's a couple years old, then it would be appropriate. Simple as that. It depends on what you need to prove your thesis true. So here's an example. No, this source is not current enough. A lot has happened in 2 years. That's a great answer. This source is relevant to any time that there is disparities in college graduation and during Obama presidency. However, many sources Sanders cites in the article are from over 10 years ago. Okay, this is one of the best answers I've ever had in class. The student actually took the time to look at Sanders' sources, the ones she cited, and realized how old they were. Awesome work. Currency. Graduation rates for Latino students who account for 1/4 of undergraduates nearly doubled, blah, blah, blah. A quick research found that to be true. So they just double checked her accuracy, and they found it was right. Level of specialization. Now, if you read anything about the Chronicle as you were researching it, you realize it was written for academics like me, people in the biz. So it had a lot of technical terms in it. That is okay because this source was intended for a higher level of specialization. And then I just answered this one. It was intended for academics. It was really, really short. It supplies sufficient evidence, but it could have been longer to support the claim. If you're going to make a big claim like she did, as we're learning in your writing now in this class, write, like prove it true, use more evidence. She could have written a long research paper on her thesis. Omissions. Oh, I love these answers. It could show some colleges don't keep track of student grades and have a data geek and show how well they do compared to colleges that do have one and monitor student success in the class more. Yeah, that would have been awesome. It omitted that. The Chronicle of Higher Education posted the document. It is an interest group that wants to share news about colleges. The Chronicle of Higher Education is all about students going to school. Like that's their bread and their butter. They need people to enroll in classes. Otherwise, they don't have a magazine. They're like an interest group in support of going to college. So that's important to note. Who posted the document or medium? A company and the Chronicle of Higher Education. These are both right answers. Okay, so now that brings us to the second half of your test. You can go ahead and pause it here. These are this first step three great examples here that that show in step number 3 what the most important data was to talk about based on the 11 things you researched. And then, so I'll just hold on a sec here, just pause it and you can read those on your own. And then for question number 5, paraphrasing and summarizing. In the gray, you'll see the great examples here. There's 3 of them. Go ahead and pause the video to read those. And then finally, the direct quotation and block quotation. These students did it right. Notice how I expected the introduction of the name and where it was published or what the title was. I expected correct in-text citations. Notice how block quotes look. Now, obviously, there's no red in them. I put the red in there to show what it looks like when you do something correctly. Specifically, the in-text citation. In the block quotation, the period goes before